Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to the Hearthmind Conqueror series number 2. This is our second week of the Conqueror series now. And this week our tournament is sponsored by mpeople.com, so I just want to give them a big shout out as we're getting ready to start up here. Tonight, first we're going to have our third and fourth place match, and that match is going to be between SnipedAgain, who's bringing Mage, Druid, and Rogue, and Innsane, who brought Paladin, Mage, and Rogue. I'm joined tonight by Alex DeBoss of Team Hearthmind. Bullock, Askier Watson is not with us tonight, unfortunately. He will be back next week, though, so no worries, guys. Everything's all right on that front.
We're all trying a lot.
Yeah. So how are you doing tonight, Alex?
I'm doing all right.
Just all right?
Just all right. Kind of tired, but there's Hearthstone matches.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's always a long night with the tournaments like this, but I mean, I think it's definitely worth it to get to see what these players bring out, and it's definitely, as the weeks are going on since we've been doing this, since we switched over to the Conquest especially, I think we've really seen a increase in just the quality of play that we get, like especially in these finals matches. It's definitely exciting to watch. So, what do you think about this matchup that we have? Because both of the players brought Mage and Rogue. The only difference is one brought Paladin, the other brought Druid.
They are probably very similar, and they're going to play out very similar. I don't think anything is shifted too drastically by having Paladin instead of Druid or Druid instead of Paladin.
Yeah.
So the first game will probably decide a lot.
Yeah, I would say so. And like the Rogues are probably almost identical, I would think, because I mean,
If not exactly.
yeah, there's slight variations in the Oil Rogue, but they're all pretty much the same deck of what you see anymore, aside from like a couple tech cards between, like, if they have the Violet Teacher. I was about to call it the Violet Apprentice, Violet Teacher, and there's a few versions I've seen that run trade prints, and then the Assassin's Blade in some versus others, but for the most part it's pretty much really been ironed out to a list that's fairly similar among everybody that's playing it.
If either of these players decided to be super brave and make their mage not a mech mage, that could completely change the series.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to get at. The Mage has a few viable archetypes right now, so that one could be the one to watch in this match to see what type of mage they're actually bringing. So let me see if the guys are ready to jump into this first game here. I think they are. Alright, they are getting ready to hop in right now. So it should be starting up in just a second.
It'll be interesting to see what each player leads with.
Yeah, I'm like, what do you think the opener is going to be here? Like, I expect SnipedAgain, probably Druid as the opener, because Druid is, you know, especially like given like how it was played in the last Hero Standing format, it's very consistent. You know, it's a solid opener, especially when you don't know what you're going to be matched up against exactly. But on Insane side, probably the Paladin, I think. I think the Paladin has probably the most level matchup out of any of them. What would you say there?
I would expect Insane to lead with his mage and SnipedAgain to either lead with his mage or druid.
Yeah, the mages, like I said before, is what I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Fatigue mage is what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Oh God, I hope not.
I hope so.
Okay, so they are getting into the game now, so...
I would enjoy to cast.
So it is going to be actually Rogue from SnipedAgain against Mage from Insane.
Interesting.
Yeah, and looking at the opening hand on SnipedAgain's side, It obviously is the oil rogue like we expected.
Yeah. With a pretty good hand. He has a turn 3 play and a deadly poison. Blade Flurry's huge. Looks like the mech player is going to have quite a good start. If he can just pick up some mechs. Like the mech warper. He has all the pieces there.
Yeah, I had a little technical issue there with spectator mode.
I'm interested to see if the rogue next turn is going to prep deadly poison into Edwin Van Cleef.
Against Mech Mage, I don't think that's necessarily a bad play, because they really don't run hard removal. I mean, the closest thing that they have to it is Fireball, and he's a turn away from Fireball, and I mean, the other thing it would accomplish would, he'd have to trade essentially his whole board into it.
He decided against it. I guess he thought it was a little too fast, a little too crazy. But
Yeah.
the 0 mana Snow Chugger.
Though he is incredibly vulnerable right now to the Blade Flurry with the Deadly Poison in hand.
Yeah. And I think you have to just use that right now. I don't think you can wait.
Yeah, that's because this board is, the damage is going to start adding up for him.
He's gonna prep the Blade Flurry and play Edwin.
I like it. I mean, it's an aggressive play, but Innsane has pretty much emptied out his whole hand at this point, where he's probably not going to have much to answer Edwin with.
Oh, the Mirror Entity just a turn too late.
Yeah, and the Scientist here is just going to be lost to the SI7 if he draws something to activate it with.
You probably have to taunt your Scientist or Frostbolt the Edwin to not let it hit.
Yeah, it looks like he's deciding between the two which way he wants to go.
Frostbolt ends up being better, because if he would have found a way to combo the SI7, he would have been able to hit for 8.
Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward here looking at the hands, because they don't really...
They're pretty small.
Yeah, exactly. It's too many options right now in them.
Yeah.
So he does make a little bit of a comeback with the Lotheb there, but I mean, Lotheb still dies to either backstab, or it even could have been to the dagger plus the shredder. So I really think this 8/8 Van Cleef it very well might win the game for him outright.
It looks pretty much over. The Blast Mage probably has to come out, even though it's not going to use its Battle Cry, just because it's something that can trade with Van Cleef. And taunting the Scientist makes sense, because he wants to get that second Mirror Entity out of the deck. Ooh, Dr. Boom. I'm pretty sure that seals the deal.
Yeah, because he really has no answer for it in his hand, so I think this is about a wrap for game one, so...
Fast games.
Yeah, so that'll be it. SnipedAgain is going to take game one with the Rogue, barring any major unforeseen circumstance right here. Act of God or something of that nature.
Like the Boombots hitting Dr. Boom himself.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it's going to work, but you know, stranger things have happened, right?
Not sure they have.
Yeah.
Unless that's Ice Block. For some reason. The BM.
Yeah, this is a little bit of extensive BM here.
There's no such thing.
The prep would have really been the icing on the cake, but
Yeah, prep the dagger.
fortunately we missed out on that. All right, so that's going to be game one to SnipedAgain's Rogue. So now he has his Mage and Druid remaining. What do you think his next pick is going to be against Insane's field?
I think probably Druid, actually. Because Druid I think has a better matchup against Rogue and Paladin than the Mage does, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I would agree with the Druid too, because like I was saying before, it's a very, stable class to pick where
He chose to go for Mage. Yes, it is a very different Mage.
yeah, it looks like it could be like an aggro mage with the Ice Lance
What are you
or
looking at?
Freeze
There's an
Mage.
explosive sheep in the hand.
Ah, I got it upside down.
Oh, okay.
Took me a minute to catch up. So
Yeah, so this is Freeze Mage.
oh, absolutely. You see the mad scientists now, the Acolyte of Pain.
Freeze Mage may be my favorite deck in the game, so this is going to be enjoyable for myself.
Now, who do you give the edge to in this matchup between the Freeze Mage and the Paladin?
I think Lotheb is a huge factor, and Lay on Hands is a huge factor, but if the board doesn't get out of control, I give the edge to the Freeze Mage. A timely Lotheb and Lay on Hands when you don't have enough burst in your hand is tough to deal with.
Yeah, so essentially you're saying it's going to come down to if the Paladin has the answer at the right time.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of that comes down to key decisions made on turns earlier.
Yeah,
It's tough to play against Freeze Mage.
Yeah, Freeze Mage is actually, it's one of the decks I really don't have much experience actually playing. Like, I have played against it, but it's one that myself I've never really picked up and spent the time to get to really know the deck.
Mm-hmm. Acolyte of Pain, most likely, yeah, so that he can Explosive Sheep and Hero Power the following turn.
Yeah, and that would give him the clear, because he could run the Acolyte into the mini-bot, correct?
Yep. 2 mini-bots is a little bit more troublesome, though.
Yeah, and he does have enough damage now that he would be able to eliminate a Doomsayer as well.
Interesting, not killing the Scientists. So now Explosive Sheep clears the board. Don't know if that was a misplay or just valuing the damage.
And he picked up one of his ice blocks there from the Scientist.
It's pretty good. Cycling through a card. Lotheb. That's not exactly the ideal time for a Lotheb. You usually want to have a board when you Lotheb. I, myself, would have played Sludge Belcher there. Because at the early stages of the game, Freeze Mage isn't actually looking to play that many spells. That's when they're looking to play their minions. So a little bit off on the timing of Lotheb. He may have his reasons.
Do you like the Consecrate here from the Paladin side?
I do, because you want to keep your Lotheb on the board, and Consecration against a Freeze Mage isn't exactly something you're holding. They don't swarm the board. This is the Sorcerer's Apprentice version. It's pretty interesting. I wonder if it plays Ancient Mage.
Is that actually a real thing? There's a version that runs Ancient Mage in it.
Yeah, you play 2 Sorcerer's Apprentice and an Ancient Mage, and then you just spam your spells.
I mean, that makes sense. That could add up to quite a bit of damage very fast.
So you save yourself 2 mana on every spell you play, then you spend 4 mana to have every spell you play deal 2 extra damage. It's pretty good. Looks like probably a Blizzard this turn.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was just looking through what tools he has to deal with this board.
He wants to kill the 1/1s before they're buffed beyond range of Blizzard with Quartermaster.
Yeah, and he's coming into the turns now where he can, in the single turn even, play the Quartermaster and his other muster.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty scary, especially with no Flame Strike in the hand.
He does have a Doomsayer now as
Oh, that's
backup,
pretty useful.
along with the other Frost Nova, so he has some tools to deal with this now. Yeah, and the other secret is...
just to cycle it for a card. I agree with that.
Yeah, because
Very little cards left.
yeah, it looks like at this point he's just fishing for what he needs to finish now.
That super important Alexstrasza.
Yeah, though, out of hand, he is short on damage to finish, isn't he? He's got 6. He's got 10 out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
So, if Alexstrasza doesn't live the turn, he doesn't have what he needs yet to finish.
So this probably isn't time to go for Alexstrasza. I would have at least drawn first to see if there was a better option. But no, he just decides to go for the damage. That also makes sense. There's a good chance that he'll draw damage, especially with Blood Mage Thalnos drawing a card when it dies. Peacekeeper can shut down Alexstrasza pretty well, though.
Yeah, but I think it may be too late for him. Because, I mean, we haven't seen any fireballs yet come out of SnipedAgain's deck, so...
Yeah.
There's fireballs to look for. I mean, it's pretty safe to say he's going to clear the board here, aside from the Alexstrasza. I actually like this play of silencing Thalnos to deny the card draw. I thought that's what he was going to make. He was hovering it for a minute there.
He's probably considering if it's better than Hero Power Quartermaster. I think it is, because if you let him draw that extra card, that may just be a fireball.
Yeah, exactly. The card can be the difference between winning and losing at this point.
So now this Paladin needs to draw Lay on Hands really fast. Or he's looking at dying by the mage drawing.
And we'll see what SnipedAgain picks up here.
Arcane Intellect, that's huge.
I was going to say, not exactly what he needed, but definitely a tool to dig for what he needs. Yeah, as I was expecting, that was going to be the play there.
Blizzard is another out. Ice Lance is great. Is that lethal? Double Frostbolt, double Ice Lance.
Yes, it is. That's
6
going to give him 14.
6 plus 8 plus 1.
So that will be game 2 going to SnipedAgain now, which leaves only his Druid. So, as SnipedAgain, what do you pick in this position?
You mean Insane?
Ah, yes, Insane, I'm sorry.
Because SnipedAgain only has one option.
Yeah.
Insane, you probably... We obviously just want to go with what you're most comfortable with to try to gain some momentum.
Yeah, because, and like that's the thing, like we sit here and we did this in the past weeks where we've analyzed like what would be the pick in the last match, but the one thing about this format, it really doesn't matter like when you're down to the last deck what the person that has to win with multiple decks would pick here.
Yeah, this is where Amaz would choose his priest to try to gain some momentum. You just choose what you're best at playing.
Yeah,
try to gain confidence.
And I've actually heard like some people discussing in terms of strategy where like say your opponent has 2 decks that you don't have a good matchup against, you let those decks win just to run your other decks which are teched. Like it was kind of like it's a little abstract how I'm trying to explain it here, but if you tech to face, like, say, Druid, you tech all 3 of your decks, it doesn't matter if you lose the first 2 matches if all 3 of your decks have an 80% matchup against Druid. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, like, that's an interesting theory, because, like, originally Conquest was looked at as like it was more balanced, you see more decks, but I mean, there definitely is a level of strategy to it that I think people haven't completely explored yet.
You could just have a hard counter to Mech Mage and let your opponent win with every deck that isn't Mech Mage, and then only use decks that are good against Mech Mage because your opponent is now only allowed to play Mech Mage.
Yeah, exactly. That's essentially what I was getting at.
Yeah, that makes sense because everyone runs a Mech Mage or everyone runs a Druid, so you can just choose one of the two. And then your strategy could just be to come back in the game. That's very interesting. We're disregarding the insane start that Innsane has.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. He has against the Druid too. The Mad Scientists are
So good.
yeah, they're so strong to pull out the mirror entities. Granted, early on, sometimes you can get stuck with a Shade or a Keeper of the Grove, but even a Shade is not that bad. Especially like if you can hide it behind like an Annoyotron, even if you pop it out at say like 3 or 4 attack, if it's behind a taunt, that thing, along with Mech Mage's other tempo that it's built up, can just push it over the edge easily.
There's no good plays for the Druid. The Mech Mage is smartly choosing to play all things that aren't good to be cleared by Wrath. Choosing to go for a Noyotron last turn over the Mech Warper. And now we can use Mech Warper and get a discount in the same turn. And playing Wrath this turn is really awkward for the Druid because he wants to play Keeper of the Grove. It's working out nicely for Innsane.
Yeah, and also with that play too, he made his board just terrible to swipe against.
Yep.
With all the 3 healths on there.
Mirror Entity.
Yeah, I was gonna say that kind of hurts for him to pick up the mirror entity in a way, because now he's one of his 2 scientists isn't gonna pull something.
Yeah.
But I think Innsane is really pulling out to a strong lead.
Yeah, definitely. Probably Sylvanas as a pseudo board clear. The opponent at least has to consider Sylvanas being on the board. But you can kind of just blow past this Sylvanas. It has to hit the Annoyotron, so it's not going to sacrifice itself that easily.
Yeah, it looks like
considering getting a mirror entity off his scientist.
yeah, I don't dislike running the scientist in there. I think it makes sense.
I think you play the mirror entity out of your hand, actually, because I think you can spare the mana. Yeah. And then Fire Blast the face, because free damage. This game is pretty much over. The Druid just wasn't able to pull ahead early enough. Mind Control Tech is a little bit of hope.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be enough for him. Because even, say he takes the 4-4, or even, I'm trying to think which would be the better scenario if he took the Annoyotron, or...
Probably Snow Chugger or the 4-4, because Snow Chugger can run into a minion and stop it from hitting.
It wouldn't attack till next turn, though.
Yeah, but...
And I don't think he's going to live past this 8 health right here. I don't see any way for...
Oh yeah, he would just die if he stole the Snow Chugger. He would die if he stole anything with Frostbolt in hand, right?
Yeah. I don't see any out, because even Force of Nature is not going to be able to clear the board.
It can clear 3 minions, and then Sylvanas can clear 1, and that's still lethal. Oh no, it's not. Never mind. I miscounted. But it's close enough to the point where
Yeah,
I
he's...
think the game is over.
And that is now, with the Whirling Blades. Because if he reversing switches,
Oh,
Whirling
right.
Blades, Frostbolt, and... Oh, he doesn't have enough for that, does he?
He can reversing switch. Oh yeah. No, you're right. He doesn't have enough mana for that. Oh, that works too. Just don't let him steal a minion. Is there any way for the druid to come back? He could Keeper the Grove his own guy for 2 damage, then sacrifice it into something to steal something. Probably Druid of the Claw and Taunt is his best chance. This is tough. This is a tough turn.
Yeah, Druid of the Claw plus armor, armor up, or whatever you call it, shapeshift.
Listen to the 4/4 just so that it is damaged.
You can't Druid of the Claw though, because the mirror entity is out. So.
Oh, right, mirror entity. So you would have to mind control tech first, and then that would be lethal through the. Is there a way to mirror entity and then steal your own creature with Sylvanas?
No, because a Druid of the Claw wouldn't kill it.
Harrison Jones, though.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you can mind control tech. Hope you don't steal Harrison Jones. Oh no, he stole Harrison Jones. He needed to not steal it so he could sacrifice his Sylvanas into it afterwards. He needed to steal the 4/4, then sacrifice his Sylvanas into Harrison and steal Harrison that time.
Yeah, so that went in dominating fashion, I think, to Innsane.
Yeah.
So now Innsane has Paladin or Rogue to bring up against the Druid. And I mean, he's got to be feeling pretty confident about himself after pulling through it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
just bulldozing in.
Yeah. And I like Paladin's matchup against Druid personally. Especially if he's running the version with 2 equalities.
Yeah. I dislike Rogue's matchup against Druid, so I think this is probably the better choice. That hand, though, for Innsane, definitely not desirable.
Yeah, it's definitely way too mana heavy.
First yawn of the day. Keeping a stat for that.
Oh, you're keeping stats on my yawns?
Yep. We're gonna see who can have the least yawns by the end of this.
Yeah, you have a natural advantage based on time zone for that, though.
Oh, that is true. Never mind. We'll just keep count of yours for fun.
Alright. So it looks like he's debating if he wants to coin Minibot here, I think.
I think it would be coin Knife Juggler. It's kind of risky because of Wrath, but
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Aggressive at the same time.
I would have probably coined Minibot in that situation because Minibot survives Wrath, whereas the Knife Juggler doesn't.
He's just trying to be aggressive, I guess. It was a risk that paid off. Maybe he paid attention to the mulligan of the Druid and decided that it was unlikely that Wrath was in their hand. Blood Mage is actually a pretty good 2-drop to get off there. Because almost every 2-drop would die to the Divine Shield, but this one draws a card. Shade, that was a nice draw.
Yeah, that was definitely what he needed right there, because he really had no play.
Oh, and if he muster for battles, he's gonna get totally punished by Swipe. Wow, this is curving out for the Druid very nicely.
Yeah, though, you kind of have to muster in that situation, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can't just play around Swipe all the time, because how else are you going to bait it out unless you have a board like that? And
that's true.
There's only 2 swipes in a 30-card deck, so there's also a good chance he may not have it.
It looks like Druid of the Claw and Taunt to keep your Shade hidden for a while still keeping Shredder low profile, not a threat.
Yeah, Druid of the Claw in Taunt is pretty much a staple turn 5, you know?
Yeah.
He's getting into his money turns now as a ramp deck where he can start putting out his bigger threats, playing the Ancient of Lures to, draw the cards, fish for the other half of his combo. So the Paladin, I think, is kind of,
Behind.
yes, that's the word I was looking for. He's behind, but he's not, because they always have the Equality Consecrate comeback.
So if you're thinking about Equality Consecrate as your main way to come back, then would it be reasonable to play Acolyte this turn in Hero Power, just to get an extra draw? This seems like a good play, but I'm wondering if the other play would have been reasonable.
You're saying as an Acolyte in Hero Power?
Yeah. Just to draw cards to get to your Equality faster.
Yeah, because this Shade is becoming a problem very quickly, where without Equality, he's not going to really have any way to deal with it, aside from Equality or Big Game Hunter.
Doesn't have to deal with Sylvanas anyway.
Yeah, and if he were to spend his Big Game Hunter on a Shade, that feels so bad if you have to do it, because especially against a Druid, you know that there's quite a good chance you're going to see Dr. Boom. Some versions run Ragnaros as well, where the Big Game Hunter would be money much better spent, so to speak.
Yeah. Kind of risky to put out such a sticky minion against the Sylvanas, but there wasn't too many other options.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to develop the board, and also out of the Shredder, you got to look at what is he really going to be getting. A 2-drop, like at best, he'll probably get a 3/2. I mean,
that consecration is good. Acolyte would not be bad for Sylvanas to steal, but Insane's probably just thinking that Acolyte's gonna die eventually, so that should be card draw. He decides to go for Hero Power instead. Ooh, Keeper's Grove. So he could steal a 1/1 if he cared.
yeah, I don't think it's really worth it to steal the 1/1.
He's gonna keep Sylvanas out. Makes sense. 5 damage to the face is definitely good. With double Savage Roar.
Yeah, and if he doesn't Loatheb here, I believe it's game.
I think you almost always Loatheb on that turn because it's going into turn.
Going into turn 9, you, especially at 13 health, you have to try to protect yourself from combo.
But Sylvanas is a big trouble to deal with, and that might be the first thing on his mind before combo.
Yeah, because he could deal with her reasonably effectively with Consecrate and the Silverhand Recruit, because she doesn't steal anything then, and all he's left with is the 2/2 Keeper of the Grove, which is not particularly threatening outside of a combo situation to which he'd be dead anyway at this point.
Makes sense. I like that play. Wild Growth was a very dead draw, drawing it on turn 9. Savage Roar to push out a little bit of damage. He doesn't need 2 Savage Roars in his hand. Really only one is active because only one can be used per turn with combo, reasonably. So just cash it in for damage now, makes sense. But that Sludge Belcher, that is a good pickup.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a nice little swing turn here for Innsane, because he was able to clear out the board plus get the Belcher down to give him a little bit more time to try to draw into that lay on hands you were speaking of, assuming he's running it.
Yeah. Dr. Boom coming just when the Druid needs it to. just when it was falling behind.
Is this game even with the Aldor here?
Those bots are pretty powerful. It may be.
Yeah, if he gets lucky on the boom bots, I think that's the only way he would be
Force
able
a
to...
feature though, if he draws it.
Yeah, I'm looking at what's in his hand currently.
Yeah. Is it possible? With the Lotheb, no.
No, it's not. I think he's probably going to silence the Belcher here.
You're on number 2.
Yeah, number 2. I'm still quite with it tonight. Not falling asleep at the wheel. Not today, at least.
Well, that's a pretty good draw.
Yeah, muster plus quartermaster.
His first focus should be on not letting the bots hit his face. So he may want to do muster for battle, hero power, quartermaster first.
Yeah, I like that actually, because that gives you better, like you said, better odds of keeping the bots away from blowing him up.
The ordering should be muster for battle, hero power, and then you trade in, because you don't want quartermaster, or you don't have enough slots to play quartermaster after the hero power that way.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Less value and more buff recruits. Oh no. Oh no!
Wow, that is...
Oh my gosh. That is, dare I say, insane.
Yeah, and the force on top of it.
Okay, so that's a good play by SnipedAgain, saying that it didn't matter where the bots went because he top decked Force of Nature, so you can't get too salty about dying to boom bots.
Yeah, I like it. I like that angle there, you know, it's a
Yeah.
undercover sportsmanship BM gesture, you know, it's
Yeah.
all rolled
Yeah,
into
yeah,
one there.
Chip at the same time.
So,
SnipedAgain wins.
yes. And it was a good series. I mean, I would have... We didn't even get to see Insane's Rogue, did we?
Nope, but we could probably assume it's about
Yeah.
the same as any other rogue, unless it was something crazy.
So we're going to take a short break here, guys, and then we're going to get right back into the grand final of Zalay versus Solid. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes or so, guys.